What is the difference between a chip and a pitch shot? And how should you change your technique when moving between the two shots? We're here at Close House with PGA Professional Jack Backhouse to find out.
I think people get confused between chipping and pitching because you're playing both shots generally with a wedge in your hand. But for me, there's quite a big difference. How it starts, in my opinion, is the flight of the ball. A pitch shot for me is going to fly more than it runs, and a chip is going to run more than it flies. We're here on the 16th at Close House. The ball's just 4 yards off the green, and we've got plenty of green between the edge of the green and the flag. What I'd want to play a shot that lands 2 yards or so onto the green and then runs the rest of it. That means I'm going to play a chip. So a chip shot setup, first thing I'm going to do straight away is change club. So I've got a 56 degree here, but if I was going to chip this shot, I would probably use my 9-iron. There's a lot less to go wrong, there's nothing to go over, so I can sort of duff a 9-iron. It'll always work out sort of okay. Because I want to hit the ball low and have it run, in my setup, what I do is I move the ball more towards the back of my stance, more towards my right foot, with the ball positioned just inside my right heel. And then the other thing I do is I move my hands forwards, like the shaft is more pointing at my front hip. And then from here, I've got a nice narrow stance, and all I'm going to do is keep my arms and wrists fairly locked, and I'm just going to rock my shoulders like a putting stroke, and that nudges the ball forwards, just carries on to the front of the green and then runs out. Now that's a really simple shot, and I would generally suggest amateurs want to try and play a low running chip shot as often as possible, just because of how easy it is and how big the margin for error is. If I try and play that with a 56 or a lob wedge like I sometimes see people do, I've got to get the ball right back in my stance, I've got to move my hands forward, and what that does is that takes away all the bounce of the club, which means when the club hits the ground it's going to generally stop. If I don't time my contact properly, I'm gonna stand here, swing steep. Now I sort of got that one okay. We've all done it where we do that steep swing, we've got no bounce, so the club hits the ground and goes straight down and the ball goes a foot. If I have to hit a low shot, I generally try not to manipulate the loft of my 56, and I'll just change down to a 9-iron.
So for me with this, I think I need to feel like I have more loft. Otherwise, if I de-loft it like I do with that, it's going to be on the next tee box. You
probably just want to just shorten your swing length. It's more of a putt with a 9-iron. So you sort of go down the grip, ball back, hands forward, and I think even that's still too long a swing. It really, it's a nudge. You're just trying to nudge it onto the front edge and let it run out. Be good if that went in, wouldn't it?
Guess that was easier.
I think you just have to be careful and remember the Paradigm X, it's got a really hot face on it, so the ball comes off really fast. I think where people go wrong when they go to the chip with the 9-iron as opposed to the wedges, they'll often hit a shot where they flush it and the ball will go way too far. As soon as you go from a bladed wedge to a more forgiving club, you've got to be really mindful about that, and it's a putting stroke. All we're trying to do is carry it 4 yards, so a 4-yard carry with a 9-iron is 6-inch backswing. Yeah, like that. And we could stand here all day hitting the 56 and the 9-iron, and what we'll see over time is that the average 9-iron is just going to finish closer than your average 56, whether you like that or not. And people are reluctant to move to the 9 because they see tour players pitching with loft and that's what they like to do, but we're not skilled enough to do that. And I'm not saying you won't hit some good shots. Your average over a season is 3 feet instead of 5 feet. That's quite a lot of strokes gained over a season, isn't it? So you've not hit one shot with the 56 as close as you've hit the 9-iron. So once you understand that the ball's going to come off really quickly, it really is, it's a putt. It's a putt with a 9-iron. It goes 4 yards and runs the rest. Now the shots you hit with the 56 are also, they're good shots, but they're not as close. And you've never chipped with this 9-iron before, so I would argue that it's definitely the right shot.
So we've moved out now to a pitch shot. How would your technique change for this?
This is definitely a pitch shot. What is in front of you determines the shot you want to play. This shot in front of me, I've got rough for probably about 10 to 15 yards before I get to the green. You can't really play a low shot here. You don't really want to gamble landing the ball in the rough and hoping for a good bounce. If I had to sort of get up and down for my mortgage, I might play the 9-iron just because I can get it on the green. So for me, this ball needs to fly further than it's going to run, so it's definitely a pitch shot. I've got my 56 degree wedge. How it's different is instead of having the ball off my right foot, I move it more to sort of centered or even slightly forwards. What I like to do is I sort of open the club face. If the leading edge pointing up is 12 o'clock, I probably open it to 1 o'clock, which just gives me a little bit more bounce exposure so that I don't have to be as precise with my contact with the ground, and it also helps pop the ball up in the air a little bit more. And from here, instead of it just being like that sort of putting stroke we were doing with the chip shot, I'm going to use my wrists a lot more in this shot. I'm going to like cock my wrists and open the face on the way back just to make sure that the ball pops up in the air. So I'm sort of going to open the face, cock the wrists, and then release the club under the ball, getting the ball up in the air a bit more. Ball somewhere in the middle, open the face, cock the wrist, and slide the club under the ball and pop it up. Some people will argue with me a pitch is a shot that might start at 40 yards. Chip versus pitch is determined more by length of shot. If I have to go with something, it's definitely not a chip. For me, a chip runs. It runs to the hole, where these shots out the rough, over bunkers and stuff, they're not chips, they're definitely pitches because the technique's totally different. Open it, cock the wrists, slide the club under the ball. You know, the technique for this is much wristier and it's much softer. You know, with the chip shot, I was like locking my arms like a putting stroke and just nudging it. I feel like I'm just like nudging it onto the green so it'll run out, where these shots are, you know, much softer, soft elbows, soft wrists, and are just giving it plenty of loft to pop it up and run it out. I'll show you a chip for argument's sake as to sort of why you wouldn't necessarily play a chip shot here. So I've gone back to my trusty 9-iron. When I look at this shot in front of me, if I was going to sort of drill it low and try and run it, I'm probably going to try and land it here. I'm really going to pray that the ball doesn't kick off into the bunker, because that would be worst case scenario. Ball back, hands forward, fairly stiff arms, no wrist, and just nudge it forwards. I've played that really well. And actually that's finished closer than both. Of my pitches. That's annoying. Probably hit it way too hard, but it's got caught up in the rough and then hit the green at a good speed and then run out to probably 5 feet. But that was pot luck. I mean, you just wouldn't play that shot if you were really trying to get it close. Face to 1 o'clock, give it some loft in the backswing and then release underneath it. There's no way you can argue that that's a chip shot. You've done a half swing.
If you were links and it was all like really cut down, then you might go for that shot. But I think when the rough's that long, in this case, actually hitting the high shot is like,
yeah, it's the right
play.
It's definitely the right play.
Easy. So there's your difference.
There's the difference.
Chip shot runs, the pitch goes in the air.